terrible game against San Francisco Golden Gate about 7 or 8 years ago, didn't we, Fats? We lost both our number 10s in one day. It was the worst organised, worst conceived event I've ever seen in my life. Remember we got locked out of the hotels, Fats? Come home from training and you're sitting in the corridors. He's laughing. He wasn't laughing then.
Okay, we'll start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Tongan pro athletes of today's and yesterday. Welcome to our weekly conversation. We are honored and excited to have our Tongan Rugby Union new CEO, Peter Harding. Peter Harding has been an affiliation with the development of Tongan rugby since 2012, either as a high-performance general manager for the Tongan Rugby Union or the team manager for the Ikaletahi national team. Peter, we are honored to have you as our guest today, man. Appreciate you taking the time off to come in and just have a conversation with us and just to let us know how things are going in Tonga. And I know you just hired your new coach for the team, and we just wanted to see how things are going in Tonga and what the changes you're going to do for the Tongan people. And you know, it's great to have you on just to, you know, let people know who you are and to get to know you. I think it's important for the Tongan people to know you of who Peter Harding is, and I think the support will be there for you from throughout the world, you know, for you to take the time to talk to us. It's tremendous, and we know that, you know, it's tough to have a person like you to stop by and talk with us. But welcome, my man. We are happy to have you, and just come on in and just let us know who you are and what where you know, where you're from, and just introduce yourself to the Tongan people. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, hello. As you said, thanks a lot, Tim. That was a really nice introduction. Whether I deserve it or not, we'll see after an hour. But thank you very much for introducing me. As you said, yeah, I'm Peter Harding. I've had a bit to do with Tonga over the past 9 years, I suppose. Yeah, I've been here about 9 years. I came up here. I finished with Australia after the 2011 World Cup, and I'd had a lot of opportunities in my life and stuff, and we were trying to talk to my wife about trying to go somewhere to make a difference and see if I could help.
Nice.
You know, just use my skills somewhere else rather than at the elite level, but we ended up being at the elite level because Tonga is an elite union. So I somehow ended up in Tonga. There was a job advertised as a high performance manager. I thought I could actually crack it and have a go at that and do a decent job. So I applied, and I was lucky enough to get it. It took a long time because unfortunately the king passed away while we were having the interviews, etc. So Tonga shut down for about 2 or 3 months. So it did take a fair bit of time to get here. And once I got here, which was in May 2012, I had a look around, kicked off and saw what we had to do, and just tried to get into it as much as I possibly could. The one thing I noticed when I first got here was the outstanding passion of Tongans for anything rugby or anything sport, and that passion sometimes created a little bit of confrontation and argument, but it was based on the fact that their people were so passionate about what they did and how much they wanted to be involved, how much they wanted to you know, the history of Tongan rugby hasn't been great over the past 20 years. And people complain about it, but I don't think it's anything to do other than the fact that everybody wants everything to go well. You know, what we're trying to do now is we've looked at the board and the people involved at the moment have looked at what's happened over a number of years. And I was here 2012 to 2015, and I stepped aside because a new committee came in. So I thought that's their opportunity to do things the way they wanted to do it. So it wasn't right for me to stay and impose my will on it. So they had their go at getting things right and getting things in place. What we've done is we've come back now is we're trying to get everything aligned everywhere we could possibly can. So the last 20 years have just been a bit difficult, as I said, and that's only because people care so much. So we're just trying to align everybody so they're pointing in the right direction, pull everyone together, and just make sure everybody wants to put that energy and passion and contribute into the forward direction of the rugby as far as you possibly can. So you see, it took a lot of time since I've got here. Like, we haven't had a head coach for 15 months because of arguing and whatever, and the fact that World Rugby stopped all our funding last year in May. But actually getting the head coach is what we've had to do, is get us aligned with government, World Rugby, Tonga Rugby. We've all come together with it. There's a joint management committee now, so they're running the high performance side of it. So everybody within that committee, we have to go through an open process to find the coach again. We can't just put the person we want in, or we can't just reappoint. We had to do it openly. We've got a lot of good people apply, amazing people apply, and what they ended up coming up with was basically Toto did a pretty good job under a lot of pressure, and all the independent reviews of what happened was very good. And also, if you have a look at the stats that came back, we were ranked very highly amongst tier 2. Only basically Japan were ahead of us, and they did pretty well. So based on what we had within there, the committee decided to give Toto another chance till 2023, put all the support he possibly can get from everybody in Tonga Rugby behind him, and let's look forward to the future. Plus, it's not very long before we actually get a team together, you know. We might have to call Fetz out of retirement, because it's not very far off. Or maybe get Isatola to play as well. It's not very far off. It's only 2.5 months away. So I've talked to Toto the last couple of days, and we've also started discussing with Tuvita Tuifu and Richard Dow, who are doing a fantastic job with the Sevens, and we're starting to put a potential squad together for the games in July. But that's an example of how we're trying to pull everybody together, anybody who wants to be into the tent, try and get everybody's energy pointing in the same direction, and just be very positive about everything we're going to do. And communicate as well. Like, one thing we need to be, and the reason I'm here today, is we need to be transparent to everybody about what's going on. We can't have secrets, because the one thing about Tongans is, and it's different from Palangis, is that you guys sit down and talk about that stuff. There's discussions going on all the time, and you're always talking about things, and you want to discuss things at length. So we want to give you as much information and truthful information as we possibly can, to make sure that when the discussions go on, they're based on reality. So that's what we're aiming for. It's only been 3 months. We're getting there. And it's just putting bricks. It's, as I keep saying, it's brick by brick. So it's going to be a slow process, but we'll get there. And hopefully, when we finish in 2023, the union will be a fantastic place. So the next committee that takes over can act on a very solid base and a very good relationship with government and a very good relationship with World Rugby, and then take it forward.
So what's your biggest challenge now? I mean, I know you just got there. When you got there, what was your biggest challenge to take on this job for you?
Well, with the biggest funder here, unfortunately, but it is the way we're set up, because we're you're a very small place, aren't we? And there's not many Tongans around the world.
Right.
Was that 90% of the funding comes from World Rugby. See,
I see.
People complain about what World Rugby do, but what you do is all the money basically comes from World Rugby, but they see that money come in, but then they don't see the other half, where if England go to a competition or they pay for their, the hotel's paid for, the travel's paid for. So if they're playing in England, they pay for the team coming in, they pay for everything else. If they go to Australia, Australia pay for everything. But wherever we go in the world, World Rugby pay all of our costs. While the money we get in to Tonga to assist high performance and development is a small part of it, there's another massive amount of money which goes to the union, which is paying for our competitions and paying for our test matches. As we were talking with Fetz before, sometimes they get it wrong and we get locked out of a hotel, but the majority of the time that happens very rarely. But there's a massive amount of money comes into the union, which you don't see through those sorts of things. So our relationship, when I got here with World Rugby, it's been quite combative, and it's been very poor, to the point where World Rugby stopped the funding on the 1st of May last year. So So all the staff, boom, stopped, they're gone. Those contracts are null and void. So when I came in, there was no one there, and
Right.
our union building, if Fetch remembers it, or if anyone's been there, it's now basically a couple of cyclones have smashed it up a bit, and they haven't had the money to fix it, so it's a bit derelict at the moment. So we are really starting from zero at the moment. So
Wow. Does the government help at all? Does the government help at all with the funding? Or no?
The government has helped over the years when they've asked, but even when I was here last time, I wasn't responsible for it, so I'm not taking responsibility. But approaching the government has been done a haphazard way, rather than giving them a budget that you need for the next 4 years. It's been done almost on a tour-to-tour basis. We're trying to get a much more professional way of approaching government so that they can do their budgets properly for the future now. So we're dealing with government at the moment. I'm sure they will absolutely help us. They always have come and helped us when we needed it.
I see.
It's just that sometimes they've been asked very late in the piece, so it's been difficult for them to get funding straight away.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Bill.
Hi Peter. Hey, I'm so sorry, man. Every time I turn on my camera, it just kicks me out. So I'm just gonna come in as audio if you don't mind. But I've got a question. You know, you've been there before, as mentioned by Tim, that you were the manager and all this and that, and within the committee. What do you see now as the CEO that could have been avoided and make things work in the past? If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah. I think what I was talking about before was having everybody. Now, there are strategic partners. We have strategic partners. The biggest one is World Rugby because they pay so much. The second one is government. Okay, we have signed another major sponsor. One thing we've done this year already is sign a major sponsor for the next 3 years, which we've never had before, a French company. It's recognizing and working effectively with the strategic partners. Now, people don't want to hear it and they don't want to know it, but if someone gives you all the money, then they're going to have a say in what's going on. And some people don't like to be told what to do. And there's always a bit of a distinction, which I can understand, whereas people don't want to be held to account by, so if you're the Tonga Rugby Union sitting on this island, you don't want to be held to account by people who are sitting in offices in the island, for example. But the point is, if they're giving you all the cash, you have to find a way. It's your responsibility to find a way with the strategic partners on how to work together for the best outcome. Now, whether that has been done as effectively as could happen, then you could probably work that out yourself. But what we need to do is to work with our strategic partners, which, as I said, the main ones are the government rugby, because they want outcomes as well, and we're going to have to work together effectively to make sure that everybody who is in the tent is working well together to get the outcome. In effect, World Rugby has always wanted one thing out of what they get, and that is a competitive World Cup, because that's where their funding comes from. So if they find that their funding is not being used to nourish the pathway of athletes, if there's competition between coaches or, like different teams aren't talking to each other, or they want that funding to result in a very competitive World Cup, because 95% of their money comes from the World Cup. And then if there's a competitive World Cup, we get a bigger part of the pie next time. So they're judging us by how well the Akali Tahi are going. In addition to that now, which is very important, which we haven't really looked at here in Tonga in a major way, is now that we have a union health check where they tick us off on all different areas, governance, etc. Like 40% of our health check now is on how women's rugby is going. We have to work very hard at getting a greater amount of diversity into our rugby. Caroline could tell us exactly what level we're at, she knows, but we have to work very hard at bringing that forward. And that's not whether people want to do it or not, it's because our strategic partner requires it to do it. requires us to do it. And we have to
Right.
find a way to work together to get that done. So I think we all have to learn how to work better with, our strategic partners, etc. And I think the actual board at the moment, they recognise that after the problems that we had last year, with the funding being stopped, because we were on the verge of being suspended. So that was a bit of a wake-up call for everyone. It hasn't been done since 2010 when that other big eruption, which is the Tola. You were around that time, weren't you?
Yes,
So
of course.
It's the same thing last year. Just stopped there.
Right.
Nothing.
Peter, what you just mentioned, of course, with our people, we have that tendency to get a certain position in the government and, within this TRU, we tend to think that we have the position to get in there and sit and command things, like we're this and that. But I think that we are missing the point as a Tongan myself, that when we get to that type of position or point in life, we become the servant for the people at times, instead of, like you said, some of them don't like to be told and this and that. I know exactly what you're talking about, coming from a full Tongan here. I mean, we have that problem. And I can see that that you're going to go through that. That's why I've been, writing you and this and that, trying to stay close, because I know how our people is. I've tried to get a hold of the last CEO, to talk about things, and no, it was. I guess it wasn't any of our business to be talking about any of this, But that's why I'm so glad that you're here, that you can let us, into your circle, and at the same time, we are here to help you out. That's what I was trying to let him know. We're here to help you. We're not here to destroy you. But like I said, I guess it was a different point with him. But tell us, Peter, tell us about the process or the progress right now with you and the CEO. It's been 2-3 months now? What has the transition been like for you working with those people? I know there's still some people in there that you probably want to say, get the heck out of here, let me do my thing. But I know there's people in there. Tell us about the progress and the transition right now, please.
Were you talking about that magic word in Tongan? It's a magic word. If this person decides that they're pule, then they don't have to do anything again, do they? They're just going to sit there.
Yes.
Well, I think I'm better. If I hadn't had my last stint, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I think Bets has seen me at some pretty low points on tours at different times, trying to sort things out. So I'm pretty, what's the word? I'm pretty zen about it this time. The one thing that I respect is that anybody who gets voted into the committee is voted in by the people that vote for him. So it's right. Like any election, it's democratic, and he's serving the people that vote for him. So as long as I can deal and be reasonable with a person, we don't have to agree all the time. I respect the fact that they're there and they're voted in by people who have legally voted them in. There was changes to the board last year. There was issues with what had happened previously. The one thing that is really important that we do now is that all of the islands have, workable constitutions, and they run proper meetings so that they can pick proper elected officials who democratically and legally represent the rugby community. And that's not the easiest thing to do, because a lot of the time people on the other islands, they might not have the resources to do that, or they might be. It's the difference between a modern board that you would see in most companies and how you would run an island rugby board. Now, the person that might be voted in, say for example, for one of the islands, the guy, he's just a farmer, a fisherman, and sensational bloke. He was a great player, but he was representing his people as he's a legally elected person on that board, and he's representing them very well. Now, I'm not sure about their actual constitution. I don't have any issues with him because he's a smart guy and he knows what he's doing. But what we have to do is renew all the constitutions so they're in line with the central constitution here, so that everybody goes through the proper process to be legally elected. And when they come onto the board, then they're properly representing their constituents, I suppose you could call it. Once we're at that stage, that is the basis of what we're trying to do at the moment, to be honest with you. I just wrote some emails for World Rugby this morning. We're going to have a governance review. Every nation in the Pacific, Vanuatu, PNG, Fiji, Samoa, Cook Islands, they've all gone through this review in 2016, 2017, which was mandated by World Rugby in 2015 after the World Cup. But Tonga hasn't gone through that, and I don't know why. But we are going to go through it. We're going to go through it in May. Now, that's a consultative process, which is going to come up with the best model for Tonga. And everybody from all the islands, all the stakeholders will come in and we'll go through this process together with the expert. Now, once we've got that, then we'll filter that into the islands. And as I said, this might take 1 or 2 years, but hopefully we can set a base that is very, very workable so that in 10 years' time we can renew that. But it is a good base so that there's no question marks over who is actually representing the people that are voting, etc. You know, so that's a bit of a long-winded answer for you, but that's the first. That is the basis of what we're trying to do. And the other thing we want to do is we have no strategic plan here, really. So we're going to have a strategic review 2nd of June. So it's going to be everyone who's got a say in Tonga Rugby, who wants to have a say, is going to get in a room with someone. We're going to have some Zoom calls from strategy experts, and they're going to guide everybody putting together what they want to do over the next 6 to 8 years in Tonga Rugby.
Well, I hope they get on board, because if we are expecting to get these help and money from the union, we have to. I mean, I hope you guys strategize and get things together, and I hope to help you out. I mean, well, Peter, the transition or getting this our new coach here, please let us know. How did it go? Did it go the way accordingly, or?
Because we Shadow finished at the end of 2019. One thing we did, which was part of a review after 2015. I don't know if anybody ever seen, but if you do reviews after World Cups, if teams win, the coaches get good reviews. If teams lose, they get bad reviews, you know. And it's not always it's not always a reflection on whether they're good coaches or not. It's just whether the players are happy with what happened on tour. And players can cause a lot of trouble through those sorts of things. So I helped World Rugby with concepts, not with the actual review itself. And World Rugby put together a very good concept of, they reviewed what had happened up to that point before the World Cup, like when they started training, and they also happened afterwards, you know, so that the results couldn't just be relied on how they went on the field while they were there. They got an independent company in New Zealand to review the World Cup, and all tier 2 nations were reviewed by the same company. And it wasn't 100%, but those results came back pretty positive just to what happened in 2019. And if you have a look at the stats, if anybody wants them, I've got them. I can share them with anybody who wants to have a look at the stats from the World Cup. Tonga did pretty well on the actual field and all the basic stats. There's this massive stats document which World Rugby put together. So 2019, at the end of 2019, we had an old squad, as we always do, but we finished up in pretty good order. Now, nothing happened last year. COVID hit. Our funds were stopped, so we had a year out. When I came in, it's pretty clear. What I made it clear is anybody who wants to be in, we're not going to appoint people unless it's under, you know, 10,000 US or something like that. We will appoint people to the minor position. But anyone who's getting a major position is going to have to go through a process, and that process is going to be run by the Joint Management Committee, which is government, World Rugby, and Tonga Rugby with representatives on it. So it's a hands-off approach from me, and it's a hands-off approach from the board. It's run by basically what is an independent body. We got 35 really good no, I wouldn't say that. That's a lie. We got 35 applications. Probably about 25 of them were very, very good. Others were just chances. And that committee shortlisted. I set up interviews, and then a week later we interviewed, and it took a little bit longer because they were deliberating a bit longer on what the best outcome was. And in the end, it was unanimous. They decided that based on, Toto had a leg up anyway because he'd just taken the team for 4 years, so he had a bit of an advantage, and they did quite well on the reviews. Right. So they decided that to steady the ship, and the fact that we're 2 months away from, 2 months, April, May, June, 3 months away from getting together in New Zealand to play these games, then right. It's probably steady as she goes. He'll be reviewed at the end of the year. We've got a pretty strict, it's going to be, how can I say this? We're going to be very fair to both the organisation and also to Todai. So we're still ticking off all the items of everything that he has to do as a head coach, and he's going to be reviewed very fairly at the end of the year.
Okay, as a former athlete and coach, I would imagine that our new coach, I guess Todai Kefu, had some stipulations that he wanted differently from this time around. I know he asked you of some things that he wanted. Are you going to be able to grant that, or is it going to be a committee decision, which is based, I think it should be on you?
Well, I had a stipulation this time because I know when I was here last time, Mana Otai was the coach. We hired him through a similar process, and he spent a lot of time on the island.
Right.
It's very important for people to get around. Todai had a difficult relationship with the previous regime, so that
yes.
time on island wasn't as much as it should be. So if COVID permits, there's a couple of projects that I've got in place. One's called the Tongan game,
right,
which is just how Tongans play. It's just like England play a certain way, South Africa play a certain way, that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Everybody talks about how Tongans play, but nobody's actually tried to put it down on paper. So he's going to have to lead a project called the Tongan game, which is going to include all the coaches involved in the union.
Nice.
So everybody's going to come together and talk about how we're going to do it, how we're going to make the best use of the athletic talents of a Tongan player.
Right.
We're different to South Africa's slightly changing their way they're going because they've got all these amazing, unbelievable black athletes coming into the team. But England play the same way, New Zealand play the same way, Australia play the same way. They've done it for 20, 30 years. Not exactly the same way, but there's a style, and it's in
right.
their DNA. So we're going to sort of tease it out over the next few years and see if we can come up with an actual game idea on how they play. And that's
right.
we will filter that through the all Tongan teams. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to, at the moment, Joe Fafita, who's our analyst, he's looking at all the players on the island, and because of COVID, we're pretty lucky. We've got we're lucky. We got no virus here, and nobody can get leave. So we've got a lot of good players here who came and then couldn't get off. So we're going to profile all the players in the competition, and then we're going to do a gap analysis on. So World Cup finals here, Tonga versus England here, Super Rugby's here, maybe Australia versus New Zealand will be a bit higher than the World Cup final. Then we'll go to an 18, then we'll go to under 20s team, then we might go to what Tonga local team is and do a gap analysis on where they need to get to. That's already started. So if you're a local player and you want to play for the national team, Fetz knows this. We've tried to bring young local guys straight into the team, and only one or two have ever succeeded because that gap is just too much.
Exactly.
We want to classify it and put numbers there so that we can then train them to get to that level or tell them where they need to get to, and then that's their decision what they do with that information, if you know what I mean.
Nice.
So,
yes.
So to do that, he's going to have to be COVID permitting on island for about 4 months of the year during the competition so that we can actually work on, or the people in high performance, very small department at the moment, like Tiny, are going to have to come together to come up with those numbers and those that ladder of where they have to go. Now, if it helps us this time around, great. But what we really need to do this for is for 2027, because I don't think it's going to help us for 2023. I think what we need to do is do it for 2027 and look a bit further ahead, because that's probably that's what I'd look to. So if he comes up, he's not just going to cruise around and chat to coaches and have coffee with them. He's got these are tasks which are really exciting tasks if you think about it. They're like, this can really make a difference. So it's going to be good fun for these guys to come up with this as well. Because you imagine game planning that on a big whiteboard, it'd be fantastic fun.
Right. Fetz, since you're talking about the players, why don't you share with us what you think, please?
Fetz wants to get back on the field again.
Yeah.
Hey Pete, how's it going, mate?
Good, mate.
Mate, first of all, congrats on the CEO, bro. On the job. One thing I gotta say that Doe needed was the support from the CEO. He didn't get that when he first stepped into the scene. Most of the time, we're after training, we walked in. All we did as the senior players was get together and with Doe trying to figure out something to keep the team together, because he didn't get the support he needed from upstairs. So basically, it was all between him and the top dog back then. There was a big gap between that, but what he was trying to do was keep everybody together. Him between his as a coach, the relationship between him and the players, he was on the player side more. He was just trying to keep us help us to keep the players, help the senior players, keep the rest of the players to stay positive and just focus on the job, because you know how important the job was, especially to build that relationship between Ikaletahi and World Rugby. That was a big job for him to do. So, man, I was happy to see Doe back in there again, because I know how I know that he's good for the team, and he's always there for the players, and he always trying to build that relationship between him and the players, not just him and his whole coaching staff too, bro. I got no question. I just wish you luck, and you know where I stand with you, bro. And I wish you all the best, and hope everybody, all Tongan people, get to support you and your crew, brother. But I just want to share one thing with everyone. Back in 2012, we always, as a senior players, we always look for Pete. Whenever we need something, where Pete? He's got the money. He's got the money. But little did we know, Pete's trying to save the money to help us to make it last. Not only for that tour, but the next tour too. But we always try to play Pete. Pete, where's the money? We're hungry.
If you put the hat on, you're taking a certain amount of responsibility on your shoulders, and if you start looking for ways out, if you start looking for a way out, or you start looking over your shoulder on how to get out and how to not give you the right answer. I mean, you know how many times I nearly sat in my room at night and we're trying to work things out. You can't run away from your responsibility if you want to. Like, as you said, you see me at my lowest points, bro. In Canada in 2015, I was on my knees, man. But you got to find a way through, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't turn around and not answer questions or not front up for things or not. You always got to try and front up to you guys, because, as I say, you guys are at the cutting edge. You're right there, ready to go. And I've never heard a Tongan player complain about something that wasn't very, very significant and affected their performance. Like, I've been with the English team, I've been with the Australian team. I was like, last few years I took Namibia to the World Cup. Players complain about the stupidest things. But and there's a Tola knows this, he was a coach, but as well, like, Tongan players don't tend to complain a lot. They get together and they make things work. And when they do complain, it's about something significant. It's not about a bit of rubbish, you know. It's something that really needs to be done.
You know, Peter, when we were talking with Fetz here on his segment,
He got his own
It's-
segment.
yes, but
He didn't have anyone that week, eh?
you know, but one thing that it had an effect on me, you know, I started getting teary because just like you said, he was telling us about his experiences when he was with the Ikaritahi, and there was no complaint. We didn't get that sense that he was complaining, but what we got was he wanted more. They wanted what the other countries had, you know, and you know that I can attest to this guy Fitz because they lived through it, they went through it, and they've been through it, and there's no complaints, like you said, you know. And I commend this kid for. Go ahead.
Bill, like,
Go ahead.
I'll give you an example. Like, you're right. They want to be treated like Fetz. Were you in Fiji when I first turned up? Were you there? Did you play that 2012?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
You were there?
No.
And we had a meeting and we were just trying to work out. The one thing that was interesting, we're trying to work out how they could be treated the same as any other team. And
Right.
we talked about, and Kissy and Lily and Vils Mafu, how we could make the team a step up from their club teams. So they weren't coming in because there's a bit of an atmosphere where they came in and there was a couple of players who treated it like a bit of a party. And we wanted to make it a step up. I'm sure that every other person beforehand had tried to do that as well, but we really did try to do that. But I'll give you an example of one thing. So in 2015, and this sounds like a tiny little thing, but the boys saw Eddie Jones with Japan and their beanies had Rugby World Cup on it. Remember this, Feds? So they come and they go, but they say, why couldn't we get Rugby World Cup on the beanie?
On no sleeve.
Yeah, on the sleeve. So I had 3 senior players in my room at camp, and I said, boys, it costs £5 to get that on every piece of equipment. So with the cash situation we have at the moment, you've got the choice of getting a second jersey for every game, or me putting that on every single piece of equipment. So there's no other team in the world that has to go through these discussions, I don't think.
Right.
But they
Of course.
were happy once it was explained to them exactly what the problem was. But those sort of little things come up all the time. And while they might seem small at the time, the good thing was that we could always talk through it with the guys.
Nice. I seen Istolomaka, former player of the All Blacks and coach from Tonga. Please, bro, if you can come back in, come in and ask some questions. But anyways, you know, Peter, well, let's let Caroline, and I know Caroline and Tim has something to say before I go on.
Oh, good. Issy, go ahead, Issy.
Yeah, Marlon, thank you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the job, and also Totai for being appointed as coach. I'm a big fan of continuity. You know, you gave him another chance because I believe that Totai has learned from the mistake that he has made in the past 4 years, and he's looking forward to move, you know, to put that effort in the next 4 years. And you know, I'm grateful that you guys gave him the opportunity, because before Totai appointed, you know, when I was, and then Mana came in, and then they changed the coach, you know, the next 4 years. But you know, I'm a believer in the continuity, you know, that you gave him the chance. And the only question for me, Pete, just for yourself, I just want you to explain, you know, to the Tongan people, because there's a lot of confusing in this. I'm going to give you that the Tongan people think that the money come from the IRB is to pay the players. But I want you to explain that the money from IRB, the majority of it is for the development. It's not much for the players. That's the TRU's job is to find the spot from outside that IRB funding. Can you talk about that, Pete? Just for the people to understand a bit more, please.
But
Good
that's a
point.
great.
Good point.
There's 2 points there. That's a great point. But let me go to the first one. The continuity is always. I don't understand organisations where a person gets hired to do a job. They do 3 or 4 years under the pump, under pressure, learning stuff. Things might not go to 100% the way people want it.
Of course.
And then after the person he was good, that person, he or she was good enough to get the job at the beginning. Then after 3 or 4 years, with all that experience they've gained, they then let them go and bring someone else in to learn. It's a funny position. So it's a great point you made there, is that
Yes.
people learn on the job and they improve, and to get rid of them for whatever reason at the end, unless there is a genuine reason, it's not an intelligent thing to do. The World Rugby funding comes in 2 lots, and one is high performance money and one is development money. Okay. This year, for example, we haven't got much money. We got, because of the difficulty World Rugby have been having, Tonga Rugby over the past few years, we're down to about 2/3 of what we got in 2018. World Cup year is different. But that if we qualify for the World Cup, we will get a significant amount of money to assist our development towards the World Cup later. So we have one amount of money for development, which is basically to hire development officers and run development stuff in schools.
Wow.
So it's not a lot of money, and we're pretty low on the totem pole with that as well. We need to get that development off the ground again, and I've got discussions tomorrow on Saturday with the development guys in World Rugby about just to try to do the budget to make the most of it.
Right.
The other money we get is a high performance money. And you're right, there's a great deal of misinformation around this. There's a number of things you can't do with that. And the first thing is pay players. You're not allowed to pay players with that money. It's ring fenced in a separate account. We can't get it. It's actually not our money until we actually pay for things. It's called the World Rugby High Performance Account in a different bank. And if we need that money, we have to invoice to pull the money out. That system is never going to change. And while we get that money, about at this stage for this year, to insure the players, I will spend 1/3 of that money just on insurance for the professional players and for travel insurance as well. So once we actually take the insurance out of it, and then we have to pay staff and pay for strapping, and pay for medical equipment, and pay for the occasional camp, etc., then it goes. I'm juggling at the moment to try and get this done. Like, with such a small amount of money that we've got, we're all on about 2/3. The people who come in will be on 2/3 of what they have earned previously. There's no doubt about that. It's just the way it is. But none of that money is to pay players or is meant to go into local competition or to go into local clubs. It's high performance money for under 20s, Tonga A, Ikali Tahi, and now the women's teams as well.
Peter, may I jump in on that? Is it fair?
Is that okay? Is it Tolo? Do you understand, mate? Is it Tolo? Is that fine?
It's not for me, the Tongan people, because it's, there's a lot of people talking, there's a lot of money from the IRB to pay the players, but they don't understand it's not for the players. That's what I want you to explain for them to hear. Did I explain it well enough?
Did I explain it well enough or not?
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was much better. Yeah, because like more from you, but it's for the development and also high performance. People don't understand that. The talk to explain to coming from yourself so that the people can hear that.
So for example, look, you think about this. A couple of years ago, there was an insurance hiccup, and a high-profile player in Tonga team got injured, went back to their club and couldn't pay for 6 weeks, and that cost £45,000.
Yeah.
So that insurance we have to put in place. You have to put it there because if there's one injury, and say for example, if Sione Kalamafoni loses 1 week of his salary, and we have to pay that salary, mate, that's £20,000 we have to pay. So we have to put a lot of money into insurance to make sure that everybody in the team is actually covered within it. So that's another thing altogether. But as long as I've explained it okay, that's fine. Sorry to cut across you there, Bill. I didn't mean to, mate. Sorry. You're on mute, Bill.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to bring up this point where Coach Istolamaka is bringing up. You know, is it fair for us, for us people to say kaipaanga, or how do you say that in English?
Get the money.
Yeah. People of the past has been accused of kaipaanga, but hearing what you guys are telling us today, there's not very much, to be distributing, after the staff and coaching and all that, there's not much in there. So is it fair for us people to assume that there was some kaipaanga, or like Fet say, eating money, from the past officials?
If it was World Rugby money or government money, I would say that people haven't, the money hasn't, there's been no kaipaanga going on because there's not enough there. Like I do have a look and I see, it's a really bad habit of people in the island. If they want to say something about someone, they always say they've stolen money without.
Yes.
It's a really bad habit. But I can honestly say that if you look at the time since I've been here, the last 5 years and the 5 years before that, as far as the World Rugby and government money goes, no, if there has been any kaipaanga, it might be a couple of thousand paanga here or there. And I'm not saying that's the case. There's just not enough. There's not enough to take, really, honestly. But if there's external money coming, potentially, you're not going to get rich from stealing from Tonga Rugby, I promise you. No one is.
Oh, wow.
if there's external money coming in, then I have no knowledge of that, and I don't know, but it could happen. But the high performance budget is so tight. We're discussing whether to put World Rugby on beanies or to get another lot of. We're not.
Yeah,
we're
the
not
budget's
sitting there
that
with
tight, huh?
£100,000. Yeah, it's tight. And like, if you have a look, the money's so tight, the staff never get clothes. The clothes go straight to the team because we don't have any money left to buy clothes for the staff. And we're not complaining. It's just a management issue. And I don't think that people have stolen money since I've been here since 2012 of World Rugby and government. Definitely not government money. But World Rugby money is very tightly controlled as well. So I don't think there's been money going missing, honestly.
We don't even want to talk about government money. Yeah.
Good answer, Pete.
Caroline?
I don't really have a question, but I guess I just want to follow through with Isitolo and the continuity, and just looking at this, the central part of the development is sustainability. So, do you think you'll be in, with your team there again for another 4 years after 2023?
I have this argument with World Rugby all the time. They go, give me an 8-year plan for the rugby. Or was it Namibia? Give me this 8-year plan. It's like after every World Cup, a new committee comes in. Like these people, I can say if I was naughty about it, like I'm not going to get it because they don't want me. But the reality is the people who come in are going to be voted in by their people who want them voted in. And if they don't want me there, they don't want me there. So it's not up to me whether I'm here the next 4 years. I have a feeling I'll make decisions over the next 4 years, 3 years that are going to upset people. So there's always change, and I have no idea because the next committee will make their own decisions based on what they think is best for Tonga Rugby.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to be fired, it's not
a government job. It's not a government job.
Yeah, but if you're going to be fired, get fired for something that you're doing, not somebody else's. Go ahead, Caroline. Sorry.
Actually, that's a good actually that's a good way to put it. Get fight for something else somebody else is doing. That's actually a really good way.
Right.
No. And I guess, you know, we briefly had a conversation about the women's position, Tongan women's position, and, you know, going in there and developing. And normally when we talk about development, we're typically just talking about the men's team. But where do you see the women in regards to developing Tonga Rugby?
Well, the first thing is we've got them to the table. I've got them to the table, you know, where they're there now. We took a good vote, and they're non-voting because you can't change it without a change to the constitution. So this is one thing why we're going through the constitutional change as well. So they're at the table. So Sienna and Hoko and Savalina are actually involved in stuff now. Yeah. I just put the like we've got, it's brick by brick. So 2 of them went on to a governance education program, which is finishing in a couple of weeks. Female physios going into the World Rugby physio, bringing them into the tent. The next stage for the women, because I mean, to be honest, they're pretty well organised. They're doing a pretty good job here. Is to have a women's development officer, which he'll be coming on board. So we're going to hire a women's development officer as well up here. I noticed that MOPES had the Australian Women's Association incorporated in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you see that email?
Yeah.
And I know you guys are pretty well organised down there. So if we're going to, one thing I always wanted to do, and this is another struggle we have, is use the Tongan diaspora everywhere in the world, you know. Yeah. There's a, what's the word? There's a bit of a disconnect between, there needs to be more connection between everybody, all Tongans around the world, to come up with the best output for what we need in Tonga, rather than just the Tonga Rugby Union is only for the islands of Tonga, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Because there's so many Tongans everywhere else, and surely we can use. There's a lot of ability everywhere around the world that we can use, and we can. I mean, it can be run from here. We can do that, but we need to. It's like, I mean, look at all the people. Look what's happening around the world with Tongan players in rugby league and rugby union. They're just taken over. If you look at the Mitre 10. My God, it's unbelievable. And look at Fakatava. He's been gone 3 years, and now New Zealand's going to steal him. His brother's in the local Morris team. You know, like, they're everywhere. You guys are everywhere. And I do want to come into the States, and you can get upset with me if you want, but I've already put on the table with World Rugby, and I've talked to Fitz about it, is we want to get the best Tongan boys over there playing for Tonga, not for the US. So
yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
And you know what I mean, Isatolo? Have you seen the ITM team? Yes. Mitre 10 teams now? Like,
there's a lot.
Teams, there's the squads they're picking. They're just full of Tongans.
But hopefully that.
And how many are there? Sorry?
But hopefully that they can make themselves available for Tonga, not for New Zealand, because some of them will be stopped not to play for Tonga.
Yeah, but to be fair to everybody in the Tongans around the world, we have to make them. We have to give them a reason to want to play for Tonga. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've got to make a positive connection and make them feel wanted as well, and make them feel welcome. Because a lot of those guys have gone down through MIA at school, and they've done very well in school and come out pretty well down there. Same in Japan. They've done well through going overseas, but we've never contacted them or ever talked to them about stuff. So it's going to take a fair bit of effort on our part as well to get them integrated into Tonga.
Peter, can you explain to us foreigners, I guess we're here from the States and we don't know much of what's going on over there. I read about what Charles Butao is trying to do as far as trying to play for Tonga. Can you explain to us what are those things that maybe you and the TRU can do or the government can do to help make the process a little easier for those players to come and play for Tonga?
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
We've got it. There's a list of documents. If we get those documents and we get them to the committee in World Rugby, they tick the player off, which they always do, and they play. Now, I got Nafi Tutavaki and Italia Pacoloni and who was the other guy who got across, Cooper Werner across the line for the last World Cup when I was there. So they went through 2015, 2016. We've got Sam Barker through. Charles has already been ticked off by World Rugby. All he has to do is turn up to the tournament. If the other guys wanted, we could get their documents ready in no time at all. But the issue is not how much work we're doing with them, because I can tell you, we say this year we've probably been in touch with them 10 times through the sevens, through myself. We've sent out official invitation letters. We've done everything we can.
Right.
The ball sits firmly with the players. Players have to walk up to their club and say, I want to play in this tournament and I want to qualify for Tonga. And especially, as Isatola would understand, the French clubs are extremely hostile to that. And they say they're not, but the experience tells us that they are. And I know definitely that Bristol are going to be in a semi-final. And what's going to happen that weekend? Are they going? Charles is either not going to come, or through some miracle, if they play on a Friday night, we might be able to fly him over for the Saturday and then play him. But if he's playing after, like, where's the player welfare and doing something like that? It doesn't. That's a very difficult situation, and it puts a player worth £1 million at risk, doesn't it? So,
Right.
Bill,
Go ahead, Coach.
Peter, just to talk about like what you're saying about the French club, because I remember in 2011, I had to travel to France to every club, because before the World Cup, there was a 2 weeks in between that every player has to return back to France. And what I did, I went over to every club and I see all the presidents of all the clubs, and everyone was released from their club because I went over there. And I'm sure if you guys, me and Totai went to France in England, and no one turned us down. They said, yes, okay. So what I'm saying is, we got to go there and face them. Because I play in France as well, and I know all the presidents of all the teams in there. I think that there was help as well. But sometimes we gotta face the clubs, because they are the employers of the players. I had a player, Joseph Tuineau, Fiji wanted him, so I went to Otago. I traveled to Otago and faced him, and he said, "Okay, I'll come and play for you, Stolo, for Tonga," because I went over there. And the Fijian coach just called him on the phone. What I'm saying is, if we give that opportunity to face the club in France, if Totai traveled there, talk with Siari, with Piutau, to come and play for Tonga, I'm sure they could help. I'm just saying,
There's no doubt Charles wants to play for Tonga.
Yeah.
But I know Totai now he's on, but he talks to Pat. But I don't think, I understand what you're saying. And from a World Cup perspective, Fetz knows that 2 or 3 guys didn't come 2015 because their clubs, well, one of them, like Sona Tamalalo, had his contract. He came to the World Cup and he had his contract cancelled. 2 other guys didn't come to the World Cup. They were threatened with the cancellation. For the World Cup, last World Cup, there was one very high-profile player who didn't come to the World Cup because he was told they wouldn't take up his extra year on his contract, which ironically they didn't anyway, so he could have come to the World Cup. And we know that one player in France at the moment is really desperate to switch over, but we talked to him on the phone, and we've seen to the club, and I know Toto a couple of years visited the club to talk to them about it, and we talked to him, he was coming, and next minute, like 2 days later, we got an email saying he's not interested from the club, not from him. And then he wouldn't answer our calls. So you can make up your own mind on that sort of stuff. But I know what you're saying about visiting and having a relationship. And yes, that is the best way to possibly get it done. At the beginning of the season, our players are available at the beginning of the season. I'm just putting this on the table. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's potentially different to having players drop out of semi-finals and playoffs, if you know what I mean. So, for example, if we went to your old team, if I went to your old team if you went and visited, say Toulouse, for example, and we wanted to get Peter Aki for that weekend, but Toulouse are in the semi-final, and he's a very important player for them, obviously. Who's the president there now? Is it Rene or is it?
It's
the new one, isn't it? Yeah.
it's a new,
Would they release him to play
Didier
sevens for us? Sorry?
it's Didier Lacroix is the new president.
Would they release him to play sevens? He's shown no interest, or would they say, no, we need him for the semi-final? We go through this all the time with these guys, and some of them put their hands up. Like Sam Varka told his club, get nicked, I'm going. And he went and came and did it. And he was pretty brave about it. Club kept him on, but the other guys, it's up to them to make that decision. We're not going to put them at risk by forcing the issue. But you're right. The best way to do is to talk to people about it. It's hard to travel these days, though.
Yeah.
Man, hearing all the difficulties that we have to go through, I mean, it seems like we just have to do some development with our local players, right? I mean, as far as getting them out to play the competitions out there, how is that? Can that be worked out, Peter, or?
Well, there's two aspects to that. It's the guys that are here. As I said before, we're going to have we really want to make sure it's not going to happen straight away. So we get this project going where we come up with the gap analysis of where they need to be. And it can happen because if you look at a guy like Fatuli Paya, who, while he was here, was just a massive, big, fast lump of a lad, unformed, and he was playing at a level that was here. That wasn't sufficient to really play at a higher level. But he's gone away to New Zealand and, best coaching in the world. Now he's a genuine Super Rugby player. And he didn't get that level of, this is a different, I mean, he's not going to get the Super Rugby level of coaching here, because if he was, those coaches would be working in Super Rugby, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And he was a young guy who went down, got an opportunity, and he's just kicked it since then. He's going like he's killing it. And he's going to have a very bright future ahead of him. If we could, what we've got to do is profile all these guys, get the information, get the gap analysis together. And what we also want to do is we're just going to bomb everybody with as many videos and stuff as we possibly can to get the players out there as well. But there's also the other aspect of it, Bill, is that how many of the real good players leave at school now. They live at school, they go to New Zealand and Japan at school level.
Right.
So a lot of the players have already gone. But we're going to do the best we possibly can to make sure that the guys who are here, and there's still masses of talent here, get an opportunity to be profiled. And when people ask for players overseas, we give them a professional presentation to present to people, to players, and give them the best opportunity to go overseas, rather than someone just ring up saying we need a number 8. We go, okay, the bloke at column 2 is okay. So we send him over there. We can actually give them film and stats and all that sort of stuff, metrics.
Tim?
It's a project.
No, keep going, Bill. I'm good. I'm just listening. I'm just learning stuff.
Fetch?
Doing a great job, Bill.
Peter, I just wanted a quick question. So do you think in reality, are you hired solely just to clean up some of this short-term mess and front up for 2023, or is this a long-term plan for Tonga to really be serious about development and setting up rugby?
It better be a real, huh? I think we got a legit.
I don't know. I can only say that I've been hired because I have a good relationship with the people involved and the people who have a strategic part of this union. I have a good idea. I'm connected in World Rugby and at the elite level. I've been to 3 World Cups. I've got good connections in Tonga. I have good connections with everybody on the current board and with the government and with the Olympic here. So what I want to do is take it from where we are and build a base so that whatever happens in 2023, the next person can kick on with it, so that they don't, like I was just in Namibia where we did a really good job, and then the next lot of people came into the board and they've taken it all apart because they want to do their own thing.
Right.
And it's the reality of the situation. Look what happened after the World Cup to Ireland. They fell apart. Australia fell apart absolutely spectacularly. If you go onto Twitter and have a look at the Georgian president election, has anybody seen the scenes there? 2,000 people outside and police and army everywhere. There's a lot of passion involved in this, and while we're here, we'll do our best to put a very good governance model in place so that the right people get elected and go forward. And we hope to put a good development. We need to increase the activity and the energy and developments, which we're going to try and do. And one thing we need to do is get a far more comprehensive knowledge of all players around the world and have a very good depth chart at under 20, under 23 and elite level. That's a real key. And there's a couple of people here really passionate about that. So, and we need to put energy and some finance into that as well, so that the 20s and 23-year-olds are available, and if the next group, they'll have a group of players ready to go. So if I'm here, Caroline, but I can't guarantee it, sorry.
Well, supporting
that's
you.
whether people want me here, that's all.
Marlo, Peter.
Peter, as long as we're here on our local players, I have been watching this tournament out there in Bovau.
Yeah,
have you guys been out? Have you guys been out there to look at those talents that we have? I mean, I'm not familiar. Okay, how I have it fits.
A half
I
back,
mean,
maybe.
A halfback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Halfback.
Man, I think he's a halfback, really young kid for the Fisi team, I think. Man, if you guys can go look at that kid, I mean, he's really young, small, but man, he's very mobile in that. I don't want to get into your job, but man, I'm just saying, are you guys out there scouting these players from the tournament out there in Bovau?
We haven't got any staff at the moment, so that's a no.
So, Bovau, you're out of luck, bro.
No, because I look, that tournament is being filmed, and I know Joe is looking. We're trying to get the film and look at that. A lot of those players have gone up there to play from Tonga Tapu, so a lot of the players are known to everybody here. And they will play up there and earn some money. Then they'll come back and play down here and earn some money. So a lot of the players are common to both competitions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not just it's just not a Bovau competition. I've had people sending me through some film on Facebook of different people. There's a number 6, I can't remember his name, who like unbelievably athletic, loose hands, likes to kick and chase and stuff, but he's quick and he's big, and with a couple of years of polishing, who knows?
Man,
Yeah,
nice.
Quite big, a lot of money too. I think they've been sending teams from Hihifo Bill over, but they can't seem to shake that Le Matua team.
I watched. I guess they call them the Llamas, huh? The Le Matua. But man, I'm
champions at the moment.
I've been following that. What is it? .NET team. I love that team. They lost last week, but hopefully they can bounce back. But that's how things goes. Easy.
You know, people from Bavaria, they just want to beat people.
Man, by the way, their fans are responding. I mean, man, they want to put a team together. They want to put a team together and go against our team. And I'm like, man, you guys are crazy.
They are, mate. No, it's good. It's they've done a really good job up there. So, I mean, what else can you say? You just got to Yep.
Well, Peter, I know it's been a long night for you guys, but share with us, please, your experiences with Tonga right now. with your job and with the people around you. Share with us how it is and what do you think or want to be better than what it is right now at this point.
I remember last time, if Fetz understands this, we're just hanging on, we're just hanging on. We're getting through and getting things done, but we didn't leave anything behind.
Right.
I've seen that with I got drafted in Namibia to work there and help the coach out there and stuff as GM. And we did a lot of work, but for some reason stuff wasn't left behind. And there's not much point in that. So if we do something, then if I'm gone next time, I don't want people to walk in and not have anything there ready to go, and any sort of basis where we can take off and make a difference. The best thing we can do is, like as you said, one, we've got to get the women's game going and get that all coordinated. Two, we've got to fill under 20, under 23 and senior depth charts with people from everywhere around the world. It's the Moana thing, the Disney Moana thing. Look out over the horizon, just get in a boat, just go and get people and just get the best guys on the depth chart, best girls on the depth chart wherever they are. And we've got to make sure that everybody on this island is profiled and has proper metrics, proper a good video of their talents. So if they do want to go overseas, they can advertise themselves and sell themselves overseas. I think, I have lots and lots of agents. They'll ring me up, and I know them all. England, France. They go, "Oh, Pete, you're in Tonga. We need a number 8." And I go, "There's this bloke down the road at, the number 9 from Taloa. He's a really good player, but have you got video?" No, sorry, mate, I haven't got video. It's like, well, we're not interested. So we've got to fix that, and we've got to make. I'm talking about players, but don't forget, we've also got to make sure that we've got a really good education program, and we're moving people through the ranks. I don't know if you saw the actual press release, but the one thing we're going to have to do here, the really good thing is there are a number of ex-players. I know a few of them, and a few of them are just before my time is the Tolos team, who are coaching, who want to actually express themselves as Tongan coaches. Now, potentially they're not at the level to move into, coaching Tonga at a World Cup at this time, but what our job is to make sure that these guys, we stay in touch and they don't just drift off, which tends to happen, but we stay in touch and we try to get them opportunities to be mentored or educated, which is another thing. It's hard to do, but we at least got to try, because a couple of these guys are pretty good coaches, but they need to not just come from this level and then go to that level. They need to go through the steps so that next time they apply, they can get in there and confidently say, I can coach a team at a World Cup against a Tier 1 union. It's not an easy thing to do,
Of course.
I
want to quote
that experience. Yeah.
I want to quote this great NFL coach, Bill Parcells.
Maybe the best ever.
When he said this to Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, he says, "If you're going to hire me as the chef, I need to go to the grocery stores and do my own grocery shopping." Meaning,
Bill, he said that.
You're going to give.
He got sacked. He just said that after he got sacked by the Patriots.
Yes. Are you going to give? Are you going to give Totai Kefu that ability to be able to choose his own players and coach it the way he wants to? But like I said before, if you're going to get fired for what you're doing. Don't get fired for somebody else's.
Yeah. Now we'll leave the selection of the players and the team to the board.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fair enough.
That's a joke. Of course, like the coach, Tono has a very good idea of who's around and who's out there. But he needs also, because he's been concentrating on that top team of 40 players as well, he's going to need a lot of assistance from Tongans around the world to tell him where the next lot of 40 players are from, if you know what I mean. He
Yeah.
will assess them and pick them on merit, but he also needs help from people that, like, for example, our sevens program with Tavita Tufu and Richard Waitman are doing a fantastic job finding players, talking to them, getting them excited about Tonga. And that's all players need, but there's a lot of really good young guys coming through their program. Now, I know that Tavita and Toto were talking before Toto finished. They couldn't possibly talk last year, it wasn't appropriate, but now they're talking again on how to go
Right.
about getting these younger guys into the system. So Toto will assess the players when the tournaments come around, whether they're selected or not, but he's going to need a lot of help identifying people all around the world to actually to select the players. And that will be people from New Zealand, Australia, potentially the US. Fetz has already put his hands up to do that. And we're going to need people in Japan as well to help us with players.
Nice. Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, let's go ahead and I know Peter is a busy man, so let's go ahead around the board and have everybody say something. We'll have Peter close it out. So
All I've got to do is take the dogs for a walk now, mate. It's 5:30.
Ran around that
I
dog.
just want to say that Isatolo, in 2004, you come back from injury and you're playing Claremont down at Toulouse. That was your first game back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we kicked it off to you. You caught it and you brought it back, and all our boys ran up and you're running, and then Gonzalo Longo was in the middle. Then all of a sudden, all our French boys just disappeared out of the way. and you weren't in the best shape. You weren't in the best shape of your life, but you're certainly big. And you hit poor old Gonzalo, and you did his shoulder. And it was like he was never the same again. He was the other bloke who had the guts to tackle you. All our French boys just disappeared. They just melted out the line. I don't know where they went.
The French like,
Sorry?
I don't think
Those
the
with
French.
Claremont.
Yeah. I remember him. He played number from Argentina. You're talking about.
Brilliant number 8, mate.
Yeah.
Technically brilliant, Never forgiving you for that because we had a big season set up.
Istolo was a beast, man. He was a beast running through there. I wouldn't want to stand there either.
Anyway, sorry, go on. That was off the
Well, Peter,
radar.
I'll go first, man. I just want to thank you for coming on and talking to us, man. I've learned a lot. You know, I'm not a rugby guy, but I know that you're going to do a good job out there. So, how's the food out there, though? Are you getting used to the food?
He's been there 10 years.
Peter's Tonga
At the
now.
moment, I'm eating bananas. I've got about 100 bananas. I got a big bunch yesterday, so I've had about 10 today. I've got about 50 next door to their house. The food's fine, man. It's what it does teach you to do. One thing I was like, after the World Cup, we had a review in LA, and I tell you, going out to restaurants down there, this was in Marina Del Rey. They feed you 2 meals every time they bring you a meal. It's even bigger than Tongan pork.
Wow.
Food here is good. It's simple, and it's and there's plenty of it around. And one of the reasons why I think Tonga could close its borders to everyone, it's not like an African country that I've worked in and stuff, but the fact that people can eat, they can grow vegetables, there's fruit everywhere, they can go down and eat shellfish. People can survive here, cut off from the rest of the world because there's a certain amount of self-sufficiency here. It's not perfect, but
that's true.
You know, it's people can look after themselves, which is a really good thing for a country to have.
Self-sustainable. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And we can sit it out until we all get vaccinated and things get normal. You know.
Yeah.
Well,
funny question, Tim.
No.
Fetz, have you got any questions about your new job, like scouting for Tongans in the US?
The offer's coming along.
That's his new job. That's his new job. He's scouting for the out here.
Yeah. He knows that we pay very well. It will occasionally we'll send him enough money to buy a couple of cups of coffee or give him some petrol.
Hey, that's a lot of money.
We'll have to have a car wash to raise the money, but we'll get there.
Man, as I was saying about the
yes.
development of players, you guys should
Yeah.
come and get some of these college players who didn't make the NFL, you know? I mean, take them and develop them. I bet you got 300 pounders running 4.7, 4.6, you know, 40. So, anyways,
Andy was starting. He was working with what's his name? He was in US, and they were starting a crossover athlete program in Denver. They started one in 2017, 2018, the crossover athlete program. But that sort of went to the wall. I was over there in 2018 doing the combine with World Rugby, and they were just starting to get some boys through. But once that was all, it all stopped.
Man, getting a hold of Andy is really hard. I mean, I could probably get a hold of President Biden easier than Andy right now, man.
At the moment, I know he's a pain in the butt, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to know? Like, give us a ring. Any of you guys, just like, if you want to do this at any time for updates, I'm pretty happy to do that. We've got we're not going to hide, and we're not going to have anything secret if things go well. And Fetch knows this, you know, we'll tell you about it, but if things go bad, we'll tell you about it as well. There's a lot of people trying to do their best. You know, it's not like we're an NBA team or anything. We haven't got unlimited cash. It's not like Japan. Japan has just got so much money, you know, they have to succeed. But if you think about the one thing that Tonga has got is players. There's always going to have players. So if we can get a decent organisation and backing for them, then I think there's going to be success, isn't there? There is going to be success. And at 95 after the World Cup, they asked me what I thought. I said, no matter what happens, we're always going to turn up and do quite well at a World Cup. We're going to punch well above our weight, because even if there's no programs going on, there's just too many players around. So if we can actually get it well together, you know, there's a thing I think. You were quoting Parcells once said. He said, "We've got to stop talking about being good and actually get good." And I think that
That's it.
Yeah.
That's something we've got to do here. And I've been talking about it for years. I tell everyone how good it is, but it hasn't come off yet. So I'm going to have a lash at it, and if it works, I hope it goes well.
Hey, Pete.
Well,
yes,
go ahead, Fitz.
How's the office coming along? You're trying to fix that up, did you?
We're hiring some rooms above Melisi. The office is, mate, it's pretty derelict. Like Gita a couple of years ago ripped the back off it, and Harold ripped the side off it. It's hot. It's full of mosquitoes. We're going to try over the next few weeks we're going to get people in to clean it up and tear bits off and try and rebuild it. But we're going to take offices somewhere in 6 months. What we need is New Zealand Rugby Union to go, Rugby Union, New Zealand HICOM are going to help us with equipment, gym equipment. So
nice.
We've got them pretty for a good gym. You know, Fets, we need a building. We need somewhere, you know, that old. If we build it, they will come. We need a building. There's just nothing in Tonga there's no high performance centre. There's nowhere for the kids to come and train. But imagine if we could get 50, 60 kids through 3 or 4 gym sessions and running sessions every day. Get the kids off Digicel Corner, get the boys that are 20 years old to come in and train. We just have monsters everywhere, you know. Stop them getting married so they don't put too much weight on. You know, we'll be fine.
You need to grab one of those soft loan buildings that are going up left, right, and centre in Tonga and use those.
We want a place that we can actually call home, and we can put a Tonga Rugby Union sign out the front, and people go, okay, that's a high performance centre. You know, in reality, it doesn't cost that much money, but it does cost a lot of money when, as a percentage of what we've got, it's going to take a lot of money to get it done. Now, I don't know where we're going to get that from, but I'll just keep my fingers crossed.
I'd imagine you guys be right there at the Teuwhaiwa field, huh? I mean, you should be.
That's a public asset. and we've been working with government. Well, I have, assisting when I wasn't working there, assisting
Right.
rugby to put together some proposals, but we haven't actually got that over the line at the moment. We think it makes common sense, but that's not our decision. It's a public asset. It's a government's decision to decide who actually gets that. And obviously, there's political considerations in an election year. There's a lot of political considerations that they have to take into account before they can make a decision.
Yeah.
My goodness, man, we got too much politics in our team. Get rid of it, Peter.
It's the same. It's the same everywhere, man. Come on.
It's everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
See, the way things work, when they're franchises or when they're privately owned, then decisions can be made basically purely on whether you've got finances, whether people are going well, how it's going, and what's best for the future. Whereas when it's a publicly owned asset like Del Fibre, and when you've got a team like Tonga Rugby, which is in the hearts of all Tongans,
Right.
there's political issues, and as I said at the beginning, everybody's so passionate about it. There's going to be different views. So what we've got to do is try and align those views so that people can at least attempt to work together to get the best out of it. That's my thought. That's my view. That's the basis of what I'm trying to do. So we'll see how it goes.
Is the Tongan people, as far as you're going in right now, are they behind you? Do you feel that they're behind you with this new job that you have? I know it's only been a few months. I see Fetz and myself back behind you right now, but
it's a bit dangerous having people behind you. That's the best place to punch.
Yeah.
Look, okay, how can I say that, mate? I don't know. I'm just going to try and. I've got the support of the board at the moment, and I know I've got the support of World Rugby. I've got the support of our major sponsor, which I've just got on board. The previous players, I worked my way into a position where I think they could have trusted me. I don't know all the playing group here at the moment.
Right.
So, and let's face it, I've been here 3 months, haven't done anything yet. So I don't think I can ask them to get in behind me. I've actually got to produce something before people are going to come behind me. I can't just ask them. You got to actually do something.
Based on just the information that you've shared with us tonight, I mean, who couldn't be behind you? You know, I'm glad that Coach Maka here came and, clarify that, help, for you to explain the way things are with the finances. I mean, we've heard for decades now how the Kaipaanga has been taking place, with this. And man, come to find out, shoot, you're saying who the heck can get rich on this? There's nothing here. So, that's a great, yes, but that's a great point. And I'm glad Coach here came with it, to clarify that to us people, and I'm hoping that our people will see, they're out here accusing people of Kaipaanga and this and that, man, and there's really nothing to take, so I'm glad that point was made. And I know I'm looking at Coach Maka here. He's probably anxious to ask another question. So go ahead, Coach.
Wait, he's had experience. Isatolo's had experience in the system, and so has Fetz. So they know what can happen, and where you can be down. The next minute you can be on top of the world, but the next minute you're down because the tickets aren't at the counter the next day. So
right,
these guys know better than most. Sorry, Isatolo, did you have another question?
I don't have any question, Peter. Just just wish you all the best with the job, and in Totai as well. We're right behind you. Everything's always up and down. That's normal. That's life. But give your heads up, and hopefully for a very successful 4 years. Thank you, Pete. All the best.
Only 2.5 left to the World Cup now, mate. It's funny how fast it goes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we want to set up. There was a question from Caroline before. Are you going to go on? Now, if you notice what happens, and it's not just in Tonga, it's in these unions, the end of the World Cup happens, a new board or a new committee comes in, toys get thrown out of the pram, things go all. We waste at least 6 months the next year trying to sort things out. It happens everywhere around the world, and it took practically all unions. What we have to do, and that's a point I didn't make, was if we could set things up so that when the new committee comes in, at least they've got a basis to move so that they don't waste. The time is so precious. If you think about it, we've wasted almost a year and a half now that we haven't waited. That's a year. Look at Samoa. They put Lala in place as head coach straight after the World Cup. Now they're a year and a bit ahead of us for our Rugby World Cup qualifiers. And if anybody knows Lala, he's good at his job. He's a smart guy. He's full Samoan, and he's going really well. I know him personally. I had him at London Irish. We get on pretty well. He's doing a great job. But we're well behind that because of these issues. After the next World Cup, it can't happen again. It just can't. Where everything gets thrown in the air and we start again. As is Atolo, that happened to him as well. You know, it just can't happen. It doesn't make sense. But it happens over and over again. So what we've got to try and do is aim for that not to happen.
Well, let's go ahead and.
Everyone's out of ideas.
Tim?
Good.
No, I'm good.
Can I ask Pete? Sorry, Bill.
Go ahead, Coach.
Pete, with our under 20s, you know, we've been beaten up in the second grade, and I remember the last time we were up in the A grade was 2012.
No, 210 they went away and they got beaten in Italy, and 211 I think they were down to the JWT and haven't been back since.
Yeah. I just want to ask, you know, the process for our coaches for the 20s. You know, we would like to get our under 20s play up the top because these guys are the next level for the Ikaletahi. And I like to see a qualified coaches coaching our 20s, you know, to get them to the top, back to the top level, playing against New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah, it's a great point you put there. If you have a look at what Fiji and Japan are doing now, their under 20s team play in the A-team competition. Okay, so those teams that beat Tonga A were the Fiji under 20s and the Japan under 20s. So what they do is they put together a very strong squad as early as possible, and they have full-time coaches coaching them. Whether we can actually afford to have a full-time coach, I'm not sure. One thing we have to do very quickly, and it's not my decision, it's a sort of an overall Tongan decision, is work out if we put together our best Tongan team, we're in the Junior World Championships, easy. It depends whether we decide to go a full team from Tonga, from the islands, and this is a political process, as you know well, or if we put all the best Tongan players all around the world into that under 20s. Because if we were to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, potentially the US or whatever, and we pull all our best players in, we'd have a team that would be maybe semi-finalists. But there's an issue, as you know, very well know, is there's going to have to be a decision on what's the strategy on how we do our 20s, whether it's going to be an open for all Tongans, because a lot of Tongans have gone down to school in New Zealand and have gone through high school there and are willing to play for us. And look at, say, for example, in 2015, Tani Alatupo was going to play for us, but Queensland Red stopped him, for example. We had Sione Vailano and really good players in there. How are we going to put the team together, coaches and staff, is a very interesting question which needs to be answered. It's in the background all the time and everybody knows about it, but nobody wants to face up to it. Now, could you tell me what your thoughts are, Isatola? Because that's a very interesting question, isn't it?
What I did in 2010, that was the last time I coached the 20s. Because in the past, the coaches come to New Zealand and making an announcement on the radio, whoever wants to trials for the under 20s, for Tonga under 20, turn up to Otahuhu or somewhere, with this where the trials been held. But what I did, I went to Auckland and asked the Auckland Rugby Union for a chance to let those players from the Auckland Academy play for me.
Yep.
And I got players, George Moala, I got the one who's playing centre for now, all those guys. I picked those guys from there, the Akimori, and then they play for my 20s. And we got up to the top, and then the next year, another coach came and we went back down to the B grade. But for the 20 coaches to go to the Auckland Rugby Union or Canterbury Rugby Union, talk to them, because the 20s, what they said to me, they can come and play for Tonga, and then they still can play for New Zealand as well at the same time.
In 2014, I went to Mike Anthony. I said, is there any Tongan boys that are 3 or 4 on your list?
Yeah.
And they need some, before you go away, they need some competition. They need to go into a competition. And we got 4 players from Mike Anthony. Went to Uruguay. Was it Hong Kong? I'm not sure. But you're right. But that has to be a decision made by the Tonga Rugby on how we're going to put our 20s together and how we're going to constitute the team itself. The team that were here that went away and got beat, they got smashed by Samoa. They're a really good looking bunch of boys. They're good fit, strong, ball skills. They just need a couple of years and really good coaching, and they'll be good players. But whether we want to do that, keep getting beat, I don't know. Like, as I said, it's the philosophy of how the team's picked. I know what you're saying, because
I believe if I took the locals to the 20s, I don't think we will have a strong squad. But I picked 8 from Tonga and then New Zealand and Australia, and some of them were playing Super Rugby. I remember a young guy, a kid called Itavaya, was the Brumbies number 8 at the time. Yeah, he came and played for me. Like, those kind of things, that's how we're going to get our 20s back up, to the top. But my question is...
that was the team with Malachi and with...
Yes.
That had Malachi in it. It had Itavaya, Ateli Pakalani.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moala, Willis, all those kids.
Amazing. Willis.
Yes. Yeah. He was my inside center.
Okay.
But you see those kids, I mean, you're going to face the unions like Auckland, Canterbury, Waikato, that's where all the Tongan boys are. To go to Auckland and now make an announcement on the radio, anybody can turn up. Those kids are unfit, and then they pick them to come and play for Tonga. But those guys that in the Auckland academy, they don't come, they don't turn up. But you got to think of going.
What you got to say, you can't just have any Tongan player come along. If they are going to fit into under 20s, they have to have a point of difference that will make they've got to be point of difference players that will make an actual difference to the team. So you see, this is a selection policy that we need to come up with before we can actually start doing it. Now, there probably won't be 20s this year, so we have time to sort that out and fix that. I don't see why the things that I was on, if we had money, we could go back to the old red and gold, and bring a team from New Zealand, a team from Australia in, and we could have a red, gold, Australia, New Zealand round robin. This is if we had a lot of money. I'm just dreaming at the moment. And you could pick them from that competition, pick the best team out of those comp. I mean, someone's got to fund it, but that would be the best way to do it, I think, so that we actually get to see them playing against each other and how they go. That would be a fair way to do it, yeah.
Could the team get privately funded from somebody outside, beside the government? And
yeah. Well, I've just, as I said, I've just got private sponsorship for the national team for the next 3 years from France.
Okay.
What we're looking for, I know Andy was talking about funding as well. He was talking to some people. We always talk about these sorts of things, and we've got to be very careful. Like if you're talking about that money going missing, we've got to make it sure. I said, look, if you do want to help, we've got to have like trust accounts for different things, and people have got to specify where they want the money to go. You've got to be very careful where the money's put and how it's distributed. But private funding, we just say it's a sponsorship. You don't have to do it like private funding where they get a percentage of the union. They say that they would sponsor the team for a certain amount of money, or they would sponsor the under 20s as a concept, like as a concept team.
Sure.
Now, the Tongan under 20 team, if we pick the best Tongans from around the world everywhere, I'm sure they'd be in the top 4 in the Junior World Championship.
Oh, wow.
Because you look at the guys coming through, Fakatava's going to be the All Black number 10. Richie is going to be, he's the number 10 for New Zealand.
Right.
There's just, and look at Leicester on the wing, I mean, these guys are absolute utter class, but they're all Tongans.
Wow.
But it comes back to what's the philosophy of how you're going to choose the team and how they want to choose it. You know, look at all the Tongans in the NFL now.
Right.
Supreme athletes. They're supreme, aren't they?
I know, man. That number is going to grow and grow.
Yeah.
But we've had some great points here that we've been talking about. But I was wondering about you mentioned it, how I don't know if it's a joke or not, that Fetz is out here recruiting for you. What is that?
No, Fetz was sending me through a list. He had a Utah Tongan team. Is that correct? Was it Fetz?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and he said, I just said, man, are there any boys that have got anything, you know, got any zip, got any pizzazz, or got a bit of swish and sway about them? And he said, oh, there's 3 or 4 boys who are right, absolute quality. And I said, well, you know, like when I first came here, Fetz was a little rugby rat, you know, playing for Tonga with absolute unbelievable talent, and he's grown up and he's mature now, as far as I know. You guys might be able to tell. So I know he is from the guys that I know, and he has the mentality to try and contribute.
Right.
And that team, when I looked at it, I see, I don't know those guys. Nobody here knows those guys. But they're Tongan. I'm pretty sure, you know what Tongans are like overseas. They're more Tongan than Tongans here. So I'm pretty sure they might want to actually contribute in some way.
Technically, that's what my question is about. You know, with the troubles that we're having from the kids from New Zealand and all those overseas teams, is it going to be easier because they're from the U.S., or is it going to be the same problem trying to get these players to come and represent Tonga?
It's up to the players. Like, if we contact them and talk to them, and if they're good enough, then they make a decision whether they want to play for Tonga or the US. It's a personal decision of what's best for themselves. If they haven't already, I mean, if they haven't played for the US, then that's easy. They just make the decision. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You got to sell it to them, and once you actually get a player, and Fetz will agree with this, once you get him in the system, it's getting them into the system, because once they're with the team, it completely changes the way they look at things. Players change, yeah. They love it. They just love it. So they Isatola just love being there, no matter where they're from. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point that you made, Peter, earlier on about the disconnection between Tonga, the Tongans in Tonga, and also the Tongans out in the diaspora. And you know, we have to realize that to build the kingdom, we have to build it together, all the Tongans around the world. It tends to be sort of like a gatekeeper of the Tongans that are in the kingdom, thinking that, you know, only Tonga Rugby is only for the Tongans.
Right.
You know, when, you know, it's for every Tongan, whether you're in New Zealand or Australia or wherever, you know, but we do have our family that are blessed to still be in the kingdom. But I think that's a really important part of development and building, you know, the sport for us as a whole is coming together. I think there's, you know, Istola mentioned that, and when we had a talk on his program a few months back, that, you know, you've got really notable players, Tongan players, coming from the diaspora, going back to the island, to the kingdom, to try and help out, and they're feeling sort of left out, they're feeling isolated or sort of numbered out, and thinking that, you know, coming to the table with some forward thinking that it's a, you know, Palangi or a different kind of, it won't work out for Tonga. But we can see now we've got a Palangi in there, so so maybe we should have listened to some of our other Tongans from the diaspora. So I just wanted to say that, and also, I mean, that's it for me for tonight. I just want to say thank you, Peter. You know, we're behind you and your team. It's not easy. And also thank you for what you're doing with the women's, Fihoko, and the women and the ladies going. It's not easy. So thank you, Peter.
Does anybody else?
I just think it's, yeah, as I said, everybody in the tent pointing in the right direction, having good discussions. You can disagree and you have a discussion, but let's all point in the right direction, in the same direction. Let's all go in the same direction.
Mhm. What do you think about? What do you think about having camps for the rugby kids in Tonga, developing them with, you know?
Sorry, what do I think about?
What do you think about
Camps.
having camps for the youngsters in Tonga, like, you know, starting from maybe 10 years old, and having some of the players, you know, former players coming in and working the camps and helping them.
Teaching fundamentals, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could, well, there's one thing that US athletes are very good at, coaches are very good at, is teaching absolute fundamentals. I think they do very well. I think that would be a fantastic idea if we could fit that into the program.
Yeah.
What we've got, we'd have to do it in conjunction with Mia and the education department. And if we could pull that together, it would be awesome. The one thing I talked about, a high performance centre before, we have been putting plans together for that, but it's not going to be for rugby union. I think we're not a big enough country just to have one high performance centre for rugby union. We need to have it for all sports, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So just a camp to come in to learn anything about sport or health and include rugby fundamentals would be a great idea. But I think it would just cross over to have everybody there, you know, not just rugby union.
Mhm.
It'd be fantastic. We're not big enough to have lots of different things going on all everywhere.
Right.
We need to pull everyone in and give everyone a go, give everyone a chance.
Sure.
I think that would be a good vital point for vets here to go out and help these little leaguers out here. I mean, I went and watched my little nephews a few years ago, and I asked the coach, you know, how well do you know rugby? How much do you know about rugby? And he said, oh, I just read things and watched videos. But, you know, but this is where what Tim is talking about, you know, running camps from actual players, former players like Fitz here and Coach Maka, that they can go out and really teach the fundamentals of rugby. Because right now, they've got parents who knows nothing about rugby that goes out there and coaches their kids, huh? So maybe Fetz can go around and spend some of his time and and teach some of the fundamentals to the kids. Because man, it's really a lost art here in America, or if we even had it before. But yeah, that'll be nice if that can be developed in Tonga, like Tim is saying, Peter.
I think everyone's trying to get the kids as active in many different ways, and
Right.
yeah, teaching skills in many different sports. Obviously, I'm involved in rugby, but I also want to see health and sport play a big part in school, and a lot of people are trying to do that. A lot of people are trying to help to get that done.
Right. You know, we've had Lamape and Richie Monga here in the last 2 weeks. And
Lamapi would be pretty handy.
yeah, man, and just talking to them and what they shared, I mean, you know, the fundamental, I mean, the mentality of watching Richie Monga and the way he explained himself on this show and some of the interviews that I've watched of him. I mean, these are things that I don't know if some of our players in Tonga has even gotten a grip of even an eighth or a quarter of the knowledge that these boys have. I mean, it'll be nice if you guys can get, because Richie Moonga said that he would do, I mean, he'd be willing to play for Tonga. He'd be doing things. I'm pretty sure if you guys asked him to come and teach a camp, he'd be willing to do that. Him and Lamape.
I just make a note of that. And, I saw Richie at the World Cup because I was in Namibia when we played it. We played New Zealand. And we're walking out the field. He came and said hello because we tried to recruit him when he was 19, and gave him a really hard time for wasting his time with New Zealand, not playing for Tonga. So I'm not sure he'll answer me this time, but if he's willing to do that, and the borders are open, I mean,
Yeah.
geez, how's he going to do that? He plays rugby 10 months of the year, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Whether he's going to spend a couple of weeks here in his downtime to teach kids to play, but if he does, he's a champion. But what you're saying there is there's a guy in New Zealand rugby, Dave Hadfield, who put together a coaching system in 1999, 2000 when he was at Wellington. And if you look at the number of Kiwi coaches around the world at the moment, this guy's actually Yoda, you know. He's the guy who's just put the system in place, and all these coaches are coaching all the different countries and everywhere around the world. They've all come from that system. And what's taught Richie to be who he is comes from that system that was put together there. They've got the best coaching system in the world. It's amazing, and they're very lucky to have it. So to be honest with you, we are actually talking to Dave, believe it or not, about putting one of the things I want to do is put a system together here where we can have coaches just upgrading their skills, wherever they are. If they're willing to come in and to Central Place, and they can't do it live at the moment, but they can do a video. It's going to be down the track a bit. It's pretty low on my list at the moment because I've got a lot of other things to do. But that's going to be one of the things is to as we talked before, upgrading coaches, S&C, performance people, and medical people to a level where they can. Sorry, what was that, Fence? Oh, right, yeah. I think you're not going to be a rugby player, mate. He's going to be a botanist, I think. To upgrade them to when they actually do go, and that's going to be part of the Tongan Game Project, is everybody working together so that when they do go and coach, everybody in the place gets a better understanding of how it's meant to be done and what's meant to be done. Now I'm talking in a beer like that, man. That's a massive project, but it is one of the things we have on our list. So
nice,
massive project. And Caroline, you're willing to if you want to come up, you're more than welcome to come up and help.
Oh, we were talking about that, but it's like you said, you know, it's 2 weeks quarantine, and then we're in there for clinics for 2 weeks, and then come back in another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's 6 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah. So really, it's you know, it's 8 weeks.
Yeah. But you got to do 3 weeks quarantine here now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was 2 weeks quarantine and 1 at home, but a lot of people were breaking the 1 at home rule. So now they've changed the rule to 3 weeks quarantine here. So but you can imagine they're doing a very, very good job keeping it out. And if you imagine what it would be like if it got in here, it would be terrible. So all they got to do is keep it out, and we just tick over for the next year or so until everybody's vaccinated, and we'll hopefully be okay.
Our people are crazy with things like that. They had that little martial law type of thing going on earlier this year or late last year. And they're doing live videos with their fight club.
That is like if you try and look at what happened to Fiji in November in Europe.
Right.
If you're going to try to stop island people from gathering groups,
yes,
you're fighting against thousands of years of just it's a basic 1,000-year instinct. Like Palangis can sit by themselves and bore themselves to death. There's no problem. But Tongan people need to, and it's just not Tongan people, but islanders need to get together. It's just part of.
Well, I tell you what, our people here in Utah, I mean, there were a few funerals in a month, you know. I mean, we're not just talking like 10. There were so many funerals here, and it's still going on. It's still going on. But, man, it is crazy out here with the way that disease was killing our people. I don't know why, you know, because we all got the shots. Well, I haven't got the shots, but I know Tim has. But, you know, it's just been hitting our people for some reason. out here
But they
in
still
Utah.
don't learn. They still don't learn. They still get
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, they still get
Like you
together.
said, Peter.
Weddings,
Like you said,
birthdays.
Peter, they can't sit around and be by themselves. They have to go around. They have to
Yeah.
be together.
And they're wondering why they're caught because they're doing live videos from their fight club.
As soon as we get a chance, we'll definitely get up there, Peter. Tonga's definitely one of the places that are scheduled for clinics, but yeah, and also especially women. You know, we've had to cancel and reschedule as well. It's, you know, it's harder for mainstream sports. It's even harder for women's sports as well. So, but definitely when borders open or ease up, we'll be in there.
Nice.
All right.
And I'm sorry, I have to be the fun police and also say that we've gone over time.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've got to take off if I'm going to get what I need to get done as well. I'm sorry to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need
Peter,
to get back to doing what he's supposed to do.
let me throw these questions from some of our viewers on Facebook. The first one is from Vivian Palmer. Wonderful having you on the show, Peter. 2 questions, please. 1, is there a funding model that looks after young talent in Tonga? And 2, can Tonga set up rules of engagement between New Zealand and Tonga when it comes to the young players wanting to play for Tonga? Well, 2 questions, but she gave me 3. Lastly, I would like to see the day.
Called out here. Yes, you can do that. But that's a bit down the front. There's no real. There is for young players. I'm not sure what you mean by young, as whether it's under 10 or 20 or 15. So I have to probably specify.
Clarify that, Vivian, please, if you can.
Look, sorry guys, I just got the wind up. So
All right.
I have to get out and get something done. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I'm just getting hammered here. The boss just came in and said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
Just one more question, Bill. If you want to give us another one, bro.
It's okay. Vivian hasn't gotten back, but Fetz, do you have anything last thing to say, Coach Maka?
No, I'm good, Pete. Thank you for taking the time to jump on with us tonight. Wish you all the best, and we'll keep in touch, brother. Say hi to the family for me.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, mate. We'll be in touch.
All right, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you for talking to us and answer our question. All the best for the job and all the best for the team too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Hope to see you up here soon, huh?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are you in,
Appreciate it.
Isabella, are you in Canberra still, or are you in New Zealand?
Yes, in Canberra.
Okay.
Get
Okay,
him
guys.
back.
I've got to take off.
Get him
Sorry
back,
about
Peter.
this.
See you, Pete.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.